So we'll just recap quickly what we did in the last class. We started with third chapter in the last class. The first two verses, Arjuna seemed to be a bit confused between Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. So he wanted Krishna to clarify which is better, what should I take, whether I should follow Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga. So this confusion may be common to all of us. That is why through Arjuna we also can relate with him, because people may think that either of these two is possible for moksha, either this or that, but both are equally important, because Karma Yoga is the preparation for Jnana Yoga. Without Karma Yoga, if one approaches Jnana Yoga, then there will be a lot of confusion, because the mind will not be ready. So it is like you have to go through school to go to college. So you cannot bypass school and go to college. So first you have to go through the basic schooling, then prepare yourself for college. Similarly, Karma Yoga is like the school. You prepare yourself for the next step to go to college for Jnana Yoga. So we will read the third verse again. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Lokesmin Dvividha Nishtha Pura Prokta Maya Nagha Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. So Krishna said, having listened to Arjuna's question, he said, I have created two types of lifestyles basically. One is a sannyasa lifestyle for one who wants to pursue knowledge, and the second one is the action oriented lifestyle, Karma Yoga lifestyle for the others, means grahasthas. Basically you have sannyasis and grahasthas. So these are the two lifestyles Krishna said are available for people to choose. If you want to purely pursue knowledge, you can choose the option of taking sannyasa. If not, you take the option of Karma Yoga. That doesn't mean that anybody can just, okay, I don't want to do any karma, let me straight away go to Jnana Yoga by becoming a sannyasi. There are a lot of problems related to that. It only ensures that you commit yourself to teaching. But unless your mind is prepared, there is no point in jumping and going ahead to the next stage. So it is not that you take sannyasa and you are guaranteed a moksha. So we have seen what are the different types of sannyasa also. Last class we had discussed that. Does that mean that people like us, householders, don't have a chance to attain moksha? Everybody can get moksha. It is not that by taking sannyasa alone you can attain moksha. Like people who join all these coaching classes for IIT or medical seat or IAS, all those things, doesn't mean they are guaranteed a seat. So just because you join a IIT coaching class doesn't mean you will get a seat in IIT. And it is not that who don't attend coaching class, they cannot get into IIT. So both can get into it, but probably when you are dedicated to study of one particular thing, the chances are better. So similarly, sannyasa gives you time to dedicate yourself entirely to the studies, provided your mind is ready. You can get moksha by following a householder's life also, but it is a little difficult. Like in Hindi we say jugad. You will have to do some jugad. For example, suppose you want to cut a fruit and you don't have a knife, so you find some screwdriver lying by. You can use the screwdriver to cut the fruit. May not be the way you want it, but it will do the job at that moment. Similarly, sometimes you want to tighten a screw, you are looking for a screwdriver, but you don't get it. You can use the knife to tighten the screw also. So, if you look at it, as a grihastha, you have to do some jugad. You have to carry out your regular duties and also find time to study. So it is not impossible, but not so easy. It is going to be a little difficult if you want to pursue the karma yoga path and also attain jnana, also attain moksha. So these two paths have their own advantages and disadvantages. A sannyasi has to depend on others for his food, because if he dedicates himself to just studies, he cannot earn his livelihood. So he has to find means and ways and means to find food. That is why, especially in places like Rishikesh, there are many ashrams who provide food for all the sannyasis. So you can go to any of these places and have food. So there are so many institutions like that. So if you are in the right place and you have the basic requirements taken care of, you can pursue jnana yoga directly. But the condition is your mind should be ready. Otherwise, if your mind is not ready, which again Krishna is going to discuss in the next 3 verses, the whole purpose will be lost. So the 2 lifestyles are sannyasa ashrama and so karma yoga and jnana yoga, for which you have to follow certain rules and regulations for each. Now let us move on to the next, the 4th verse. Na karmana manarambhat naishkarmyam purushosnute na cha sannyasana deva siddhim samadhigacchati. So here in the 3 verses which are going to come, another next 2 verses, Krishna is going to give 3 reasons why you cannot avoid action. In this verse, he says, one cannot run away from the problem. By avoiding action, you cannot gain moksha. You cannot say, okay, I will not do any action. I want to get moksha. It is not possible. Similarly, just because you become a sannyasi, again doesn't guarantee you moksha. Because if you avoid action, your mind is still carrying so many problems. You are just trying to run away from the problems. You think by running away from the problems, you will be free to pursue Jnana Yoga. That will be the biggest mistake. Because even if you run away from where you are, go to the Himalayas and sit there, your mind will be still thinking about the problems that you left behind. So-called problem. You may have physically moved away, but mentally you cannot move away. So wherever you go, even if you go and sit on the moon also, the problem is going to be there. So you cannot wish the problem away. So avoiding action by running away from the problem is not a solution. Similarly, if you think by taking sannyasa you are going to get moksha, again the same problem. Your mind, unless it is completely prepared, you cannot take sannyasa. So you have to overcome all your desires, because very difficult for somebody to give up all the desires. So all of us, we are driven by our desires. So whatever we are today is because of whatever desires we had, and these desires will continue to make us do what we want. So everybody wants name, fame, money. It's very difficult for somebody to come out of those desires. So you have to slowly, by the various practices given earlier, by controlling your sense organs, channelizing your mind in the right direction, you slowly overcome the desires. Not forcibly. You, by slowly working on your mind, training your mind, your desires sort of become okay. If I have this, I am fine. If I don't have this also, it is fine with me. Morning I get up. Some people, if they don't get their coffee, their whole day will be wasted. But if you get up in the morning, okay, today there's no coffee, I'll manage, no problem. If I get coffee, I'll enjoy it, no problem. There's nothing that you should not enjoy that. So this kind of attitude comes over a period of time by being aware. So our awareness should be there. A strong binding desires are difficult to overcome, because you will be driven to action. Those desires we have been carrying over in many janmas probably, because the very fact that we are born is because we have unfulfilled desires in the last birth. So there is no other reason why we are born. If we had not had any unfulfilled desires, maybe our mind would be ready, and that is how some people may take to sannyasa very early, because probably in their last birth they had sort of overcome all their desires. They had no strong binding desires which had to be fulfilled. So they are ready early in this life. So maybe their mind is ready for sannyasa. So that's why you find a lot of young people who take to sannyasa. But we can never, looking at a person or even speaking to a person, we can never understand whether that person is ready for sannyasa or not. Only that person alone will know. So mere renunciation is also not going to give you moksha, nor avoiding the problems and running away from action. So he has prescribed these two lifestyles. For the sannyasi, Jnana Yoga, and for the others Karma Yoga. So both these have to be with some conditions. So you become a sannyasi only when your mind is prepared. And to prepare the mind, you have to go through Karma Yoga. So this is again emphasizing that both are equally important. Karma Yoga as well as Jnana Yoga. You cannot do one thing and avoid the other for moksha. Karma Yoga alone you can do. You have a life of Karma Yoga, you do actions without any kind of, without really bothering about the results. Results will come, but you are not attached to those results. If you live that kind of a life, definitely if you are interested to gain moksha and you take to Jnana Yoga, you will be able to achieve that goal much faster. If not, in this life, you may be able to continue with that same kind of mind in the next life, because the mind goes along with the person. The body goes back to the elements, but the mind, as it was in this birth, with all the previous birth, whatever is there in the mind, it all goes together. But if you have attained some sort of a calm mind in this birth, the chances of you starting off from there in the next birth are very high. So this is one reason why you cannot give up action. Now let us go to the next reason in the next verse. Verse number 5. Nahi kaschit shanamapi jatu nishtatya karma krita karyate hya vashah karma sarva prakriti jairgune. Now, first verse he talked about you cannot avoid, you cannot run away, you cannot avoid action. In this verse, he is saying even if you want, you cannot give up action, because the natural law, everybody is driven by the three gunas, as we call it, sattva, rajas and tamas. The prakriti or nature is made up of three gunas, and you are also made up of these three gunas. Like the characteristics of the children are derived from the parents, similarly the characteristics of what is nature are there in each person, because they are also made up of the same. So the three gunas will make you do action depending on what is predominant in you. If your sattva guna is predominant, you will be a very calm person. If your rajo guna is predominant, you will be a very active person. And if your tamo guna is predominant, you will be a very lazy person. But everybody is a mix of all these three. It is not that you have only one guna. Some guna may be predominant, and the whole purpose is to make sattva guna predominant, because that is what is going to. So the immediate goal is to increase the sattva guna, reduce the rajo guna, and avoid the tamo guna to the extent possible. So by law of nature, you cannot avoid action. Even if somebody says, physically I am not doing any action, your mind is active. Probably even a person in coma is completely not moving at all, the body is completely still, but the mind is working. So there's nobody in this universe who can say, I am completely actionless, physically or mentally. And you are helplessly driven to action, driven by your 3 gunas. So even if somebody wants to give up action, they cannot. You can avoid certain actions, but you cannot avoid doing actions at all, because that is your nature. You are part of nature, and whatever is nature made of, you are also made up of that same 3 gunas. So the Krishna says the second reason why you cannot give up action is because even if you want, you cannot give it up. So this is the second reason. Now let us read the 6th verse. Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyartha vimudhatma mithyacharah sa uchyate. So here again he is talking about a sannyasa or a sannyasi who is not prepared, mentally prepared. Because giving up action and taking to sannyasa is a very risky proposition. You will end up neither here nor there. Physically, you may control your sense organs and feel you are ready, but if your mind is not ready, it will be a disaster. So outwardly you take sannyasa and people may think that you are mentally prepared, but if your actions don't match that, you will be like a hypocrite. So just by wearing the ochre robes or kavi clothes doesn't make one a sannyasi. People are there who have taken sannyas in a hurry due to running away from the problem. They thought by wearing these robes you can change. Only physically, outwardly you may look different, but internally you are worse than people who are in a similar state but not in this dress. Because once you take to this lifestyle, you cannot get out of it. Strictly speaking, you cannot reverse the process of sannyasa, strictly speaking, because sannyasa is not forced upon anybody. You cannot put a gun on somebody's head and say, now you become a sannyasi. So nothing can be forced. It is out of pure understanding that one takes to sannyasa, and a person who takes to sannyasa with the complete understanding, he will never regret. But you will find many sannyasis all over who are complaining, probably I should have stayed back at home, probably I should not have taken sannyasa, I think I made a mistake. So once you start feeling like that, then you are a hypocrite. So unless you are sure that you have overcome all your desires, your only goal is to attain moksha, at that instant you decide to take sannyasa. Only once you are 100% sure, you ask yourself, do I have any other desires? Because unless you fulfill those, your mind is never going to be calm. And unless the mind is calm, Jnana Yoga will not, you cannot become a Sthita Prajna. You can get Jnanam. So all of us now, while listening to this, we think, okay, it makes sense. But the moment we go back to our normal duties, when a situation arises, we are not ready for it. So we have to make sure that the mind is prepared, and for preparation, only action, Karma Yoga is possible. And by performing Karma Yoga, you slowly overcome your desires. You outgrow your desires, rather than overcome, you outgrow. Like at a young age, we used to play with balloons or dolls or any other, at that age, whatever, marbles, top. So we all used to have this season. So Gilli, then Dand, then marble season. So we always used to, keep those marbles next to our pillow so that nobody takes them away. But if we start doing that now, then something is wrong with us. So after that age, you naturally outgrow. So after that, if you see some children playing marble, okay, you remember your old days, you spend a few minutes with them playing. But you don't start playing marbles the way you used to do in your young age. You don't collect marbles and keep it under your pillow. If you are doing that, then something is drastically wrong with you. So you outgrow. Similarly, all the desires. See, we have all come from whatever background, we have grown, we have come a long way because we were driven by our desires. If there was no desire, we would not have achieved all this. So all of us have achieved many things in life purely because we wanted to do it. So there was a strong desire to achieve something. Now, along with that, if we had the desire to get moksha also, probably we could have worked side by side. We should have carried on with achieving whatever we wanted to achieve. At the same time, that is why our cultural practices were all oriented towards that. So it is not that you give up cultural practices to fulfill your desires. Legitimate desires. If you have some desires which are not legitimate, then the cultural practices also will not be, you will not be able to follow them also. Because they are all oriented towards legitimate things. So if you have any legitimate desires, for us like desire to get a degree, desire to get a good job, all those things happen. So these are all very legitimate desires. But along with that, if we had followed our cultural practices, doing puja, doing sandhya vandanam, whatever they were used to, doing some japa, chanting Vishnu Sahasranam or Lalita Sahasranam, all these things, if we had continued along with our regular other worldly duties, probably it would have helped us to be more grounded and not have further desires. Once you have achieved a certain amount of respect, fame, you feel okay, it's now time to move on to other things, move on for spiritual growth. So until that happens, we will continue, and people, if they have unfulfilled desires in this life, they have to come back. There is no choice. So it is up to the individual to assess. Today you can assess where I stand. Do I have any unfulfilled desires? Is there any way I can fulfill them in this birth so that I don't have to carry them forward. If they are very strong desires, which are something which takes a lot of time to achieve, may not be possible if you are at our age. If you are younger, probably you can fix a target and fulfill those desires. But the problem is the mind is so used to certain things that one desire, once it is over, the next one starts. So unless this cultural practices are there, not that people who do puja and people who do this thing, they all become very good and their minds are prepared. But if we follow those, there is a chance that over a period of time we sort of outgrow all our desires and get the mind ready, so that when we go to Jnana Yoga, that mind is ready to receive that knowledge and hold on to that knowledge to become a Sthita Prajna. So it is not about just acquiring that knowledge. It is, the knowledge should be available at any point. At any time we should be, when we face any situation, that knowledge should be helpful to us. So this is the reason why these two lifestyles have been prescribed according to the person's mindset. So it is, sannyasa should be taken only by a person who is mentally prepared, who has no binding desires, who has overcome or outgrown all his desires, and his aim is only to attain moksha. Such a person alone should take to. Otherwise, outwardly you show that you have taken sannyasa and inwardly you have a lot of problems. Such a person is only a hypocrite. In fact, such persons will bring down others also who follow them. Because if your lifestyle doesn't match what you say, it is not going to help others. If the father is a smoker and he tells the son not to smoke, it is not going to happen until he stops smoking. Similarly, any of our habits also, cultural practices, if the father does Sandhya Vandanam, the chance that the son will do, also do that. But if the father doesn't do, there are children who are doing something which their fathers never did, the right things. But that is also an exception. But the chances of the children doing something which the father is doing is much more. So you don't have to, so your lifestyle should match. So when you say something and you follow that, the person who listens to it will also tend to do it. Otherwise, you are a hypocrite. So we will find a lot of such new age gurus who live very lavish lives, but they will preach, you should not have desires, you should give up all this. They probably want you to give everything to them, and they will continue their lavish lives. I am not saying everybody is like that, but we have also seen examples like that. We have heard so many such people, we have heard about them. So ultimately, only the person himself or herself will know where he stands when it comes to the preparation of mind. And when your mind is ready for Jnana Yoga, you are ready. That's why the 4 ashramas, Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyas ashrama, the 4 stages were prescribed. So these, in those days, there was a pattern on how people did it. Now, we cannot go to the forest or something, even if we want. But you can be at home also and still follow Vanaprastha and Sannyasa, because it is just the mindset. It's just a cognitive change. You can become a sannyasi sitting at home, or you can be a sannyasi elsewhere among all kinds of serene surroundings, but your still mind is not steady. So it is purely up to the individual, because in our culture nothing is thrust upon us. Nothing is thrust. There is no rule that you should go to the temple. There is no rule that you should do puja. There is no rule that you should do sandhya vandanam. It's all unwritten. But if you follow this, you will see the changes. So that is why all these things are part of our routine. And when you are ready, you can move on to the next stage easily. So that is how our system is designed. So we will continue in the next class.